Okay, copy. Colleen, it is, and I believe it's going to be a Mercedes SUV, and LAPD officers from the West LA division are in pursuit of this individual because they believe the car is actually stolen. So at this point, it's unclear how many people may be in the car, but the driver window is down, so I can occasionally see some of his erratic movements, and you're seeing one of them now as he uses the right shoulder to get past some slower moving traffic. And where we're at is the eastbound side of the 10 freeway. It looks like he's going to be exiting Arlington Avenue here, so we're very close to the Jefferson Park area, so not far from USC. Yeah, they did. It was over in, I believe it was actually LAPD officers, but in Santa Monica. They spotted this vehicle. Apparently, the plates come back as a stolen, so they tried to pull it over, and that's when the driver failed to yield, and the pursuit was on. So it really has only been on surface streets in the Santa Monica area as well as West LA before he jumped onto the 10 eastbound, and he had been on that 10 eastbound until he just exited as you were coming to us live. Now LAPD is behind the vehicle, but I had just heard them say that they were going to go into surveillance mode, which means that those units are likely going to be backing off. But now that he's on surface streets, perhaps the watch commander will let those units stay behind the vehicle. Right now, unclear what he's trying to do, kind of zigzagging all over the lanes for no apparent reason. Yeah, wrong side of the road there momentarily. Now he's back on the right side of the road. So it's unclear what the thought process was behind that as he was kind of zigzagging there through lanes, but now really picking up speed. This is going to be Adams Boulevard, which is one of the major streets that runs just on the south side of the 10 freeway. And you can see that those officers are now close behind. So that means that that surveillance mode has been disengaged here since he's back on surface streets. These officers are going to stay close behind, and it's a good thing because, man, he is really erratic now that he's on streets. They were thinking about it when he was on the freeway because he was driving relatively calm and slow, all things considered. But now that he's on surface streets, which are going to be a lot busier than what we were seeing before, and with these high speeds, they're going to have to back off on that thought of doing a pit maneuver. Could they try something like spike strips? Well, that's a possibility, but they kind of just need to figure out what his mode of operation is going to be here. Is he going to be on one street for a very long time? If so, that's going to be a perfect time to do a pit, or rather spike strips, but I may have spoken too soon here. It looks like he's jumping back on the 10 freeway from Hoover. It definitely seemed like a stability issue, but it almost seemed very intentional. This is a newer model car, so I would venture to say there's likely nothing mechanically wrong with it, but he's just been driving erratic, and so it's unclear what his mindset may be in this situation. And it looks like he rolled his window back up, so we could see him momentarily before. Now we can't, but these windows don't seem to have tint there on the front. So occasionally we may still be able to sneak a peek there at the driver, and at this point unclear if he has any passengers. At this point, we haven't heard him being involved in any collisions, either when he was on surface streets or on the freeway, which is pretty difficult to believe considering the erratic driving that we've witnessed in such a short amount of time, as you were saying. But we're now continuing here eastbound on the 10 freeway, so getting closer to the 110 freeway. So that's going to give him some options. He can either go north or south on the 110 or stay on the 10, or of course he can always exit at any point. So we are getting that much closer to USC. We're just north of the school now. now. And as he continues eastbound on the 10 freeway, that's going to get him towards downtown Los Angeles. Again, this started off as a stolen car over on the west side with LAPD still in pursuit, which is pretty surprising to me because considering how long he's been on the freeway now, you would think CHP would have taken over. But for now, still officers from the LAPD behind him and above him. Yeah, this is the 10 East, and it's going to stay pretty heavy as you make your way just south of the buildings in downtown. Once you get to about Boyle Heights, it does open up a little bit. But he does have some options. Again, as we were saying, he's coming up to the 110 now, and it looks like he's trying to decide what he's going to do. I believe if he stays in this lane, it's going to keep him on the 10, but we'll be able to confirm that as he completes the transition. For now, using the right shoulder there to get by, trying to dodge that officer. But good luck, Freddie. That officer is not going to give you much in the way of room. They're going to stay right on your tail as this pursuit continues here just south of downtown, 110 at the 10. Yeah, correct. It's unclear to us if this car was taken in something like an armed carjacking, for example, or if it was simply a crime of opportunity where the car was left running and this person jumped in and took off. So that's unclear to us now. Perhaps the officers have a little more information when it comes to that. But in terms of who may be in the vehicle, at this point it's unclear. We're saying that it's a he because that's what we've heard on the scanner, but of course sometimes we can be wrong when these pursuits come to an end. And it's also unclear if anybody else is in there with him. I do think I see something in the passenger seat, but it's hard for me to tell if it's a person or perhaps just an object. But making that transition now, it looks like he's going to be going northbound on the 110 from the 10 freeway. Absolutely. You can see that right now, Colleen, just about 2 lanes here as you make that transition. And he's using the right shoulder to get by because of that heavy traffic. So this is going to put him towards downtown Los Angeles. We're right next to the Crypto.com arena. We're also next to the convention center. So all really busy areas. And I'm just taking a peek here. I want to see if I see a passenger. I think I do. I think I see a passenger there in the front seat. So at least 2 people in the car. Of course, there's also a possibility that there could be people in the back. But for now, I can at least say 2 people in this possible stolen car. A pursuit that started in West Los Angeles has now made its way into downtown LA. Yeah, so looking at that primary unit, that looks like LAPD, and I'm just checking the door to confirm that. So yeah, that looks like LAPD to me. And I do hear them talking about going back into surveillance mode, but the first time they tried that, they immediately canceled it because he immediately got off the freeway. So at this point, these units are staying behind him. I'm going to widen out just real quick. I want to see how many this is. So I see at least 5. I don't want to widen out too far and lose them, but I'm seeing at least I'm seeing at least 5 units of the LAPD directly behind the vehicle, and of course the police helicopter overhead. Exactly. So this is just south of that 101 merge, the 4-level interchange. There's going to be a building here in our way, and that's the difficult part about when a pursuit makes its way through downtown. We're stuck with all these buildings. So pardon the shot here as I widen out from time to time. But he's basically right next to the numbered streets here in downtown Los Angeles. I believe he just passed 3rd Street, and he's going to continue here northbound. So his next option will be that 101 freeway. That goes either north or south, or of course he can stay on the 110. That would put him by Dodger Stadium, and eventually the 110 comes to an end over in the South Pasadena area. But he can also, of course, exit at any time. Hopefully he doesn't exit into downtown because that, again, is going to be very busy. All these streets are always so incredibly busy, and of course makes it more difficult for us to follow as well. The best thing would be if he simply just pulled over and gave up. But for now, giving it all it's got here northbound on the 110 freeway as fast as he can, considering the freeway conditions right next to the buildings here in downtown. So this started as a following, Colleen, and a following is always what precedes a pursuit. Essentially what it means is that the unit spotted what they believed to be a stolen car when they ran the plates, and they attempted a typical traffic stop. But it is at that point that that driver didn't stop and the pursuit was on. This started in, I believe it actually started in Santa Monica. These units from West LA must have spotted the vehicle in West LA but followed it into Santa Monica, and that's where the pursuit began. He made his way on surface streets there in Santa Monica for a while. He was even on PCH for a time before jumping on the 10 East, and he was on that 10 East until he got to about USC, and that is when he eventually got off on surface streets before jumping right back on, and is now here on the northbound 110 freeway. And at this point it looks like he's committed northbound 110 north of the 101. Not quite yet, but we're so close. We're just south of that right now. So our helicopter's actually right over Dodger Stadium right now, but he's still just a little bit to the south of that, but he's going to be coming up on it here in no time. So again, this is going to be the 110 freeway just to the east of Dodgers and north of the 101 freeway. Stolen car out of West LA. Yeah, so at this point they've been talking about going into surveillance mode, and so the thought process behind that is if he perhaps does not see those units behind him, then maybe he'll think this is no longer a pursuit. He'll think that he somehow dodged the police, and a lot of the time what these individuals do is they simply go home, and that's the opportunity for the police to swoop in and take them into custody. Of course, surveillance mode doesn't always work, however, and if it doesn't work, then this guy's going to continue to drive erratically, and at that point, officers can consider something like a spike strip, but what they really need for that to be effective is for him to have a pattern to his driving, so to be on the same road or on the same freeway for a long time in order to have enough time to successfully deploy that spike strip. The other option, of course, is a pit maneuver, but the speeds and traffic conditions at this point are just not ideal. Thank you. Yeah, exactly, to get past some slower moving traffic there. And he's just going through the tunnels right now, so I'm going to just hop on over to the exit here, and we'll wait for him on the other side. Along the 110 freeway, there's a set of tunnels. There's a few tunnels, actually. I believe it's 3 tunnels. And so as he comes into that tunnel, we'll just continue to widen out and catch him on the other side. So where we're at, again, is right next to Dodger Stadium, just on the east side of it on the 110 freeway. Yeah. Yeah, he is approaching the 5 right now, and he just made that transition onto the 5. So it's going to be northbound on the 5 freeway from the 110. But you're right, Colleen, the 110 freeway through there becomes a 55-mile-an-hour zone because that's the oldest stretch of our highway here in this area. So it was built at a time when the speed limit ended up being 55. But he didn't continue on that 110 freeway, the Arroyo Seco, and is instead making his way onto the northbound 5. So coming under the 110 freeway now. There he is, North 5 now. I'm just going to check the traffic conditions real quick. It looks like we do have heavy traffic on that northbound 5 until you get to about the 2, the Glendale Freeway. Once he gets to that, it's wide open into the San Fernando Valley and all the way into Santa Clarita, actually. So he's going to have a lot of real estate here if he chooses to continue north on the 5. Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly what you want to do. You just want to pull over to the right when it is safe to do so. Sometimes, though, unfortunately, some people think they can be a hero and try to get involved, which is never what you want to do because you don't know if this person is armed, you haven't been properly trained. Then leave it to the officers. So the best thing you can do if you're trying to be helpful is simply pull over to the right when it's safe to do so, and once the pursuit passes you by and it's safe to merge back into lanes, that's the time to do it. But here we are, northbound 5 at Stadium Way, right next to Dodgers Stadium, continuing north on the 5. Yeah, from what I can see, there's at least one passenger. It looks like the driver's even on his phone, perhaps. I see him working with something there in his right hand. So at this point, unclear if anybody's in the back seat. It doesn't seem like it to me from this point. I can kind of see through the sunroof a little bit, and I don't really see any movement back there. But we did notice that there's at least a passenger sitting in the front, unknown gender. And at this point, it's unclear if that person even knew that this was a stolen car. It could be a situation where a friend gave them a ride and they didn't know that the car was stolen. But when the pursuit does come to an end, and of course they all do, when it does come to an end, everyone in the vehicle will be detained, and officers will then take everybody back to the station, and they'll figure out who knew what and who should be in custody for this stolen vehicle crime. But when we do see it come to a stop, again, everyone will be detained. It will be a high-risk traffic stop, though, because, again, it's unclear if this person is armed. Oh, absolutely. With those units behind them, I don't think they see the helicopter. That would be really difficult for them to see, but definitely saw those units in the rear view mirror. And coming up to the 2 freeway now, so we're kind of coming close to where I said the traffic would start to ease up. And it looked like he was going to try to exit, but is instead going to continue northbound here on the 5, coming up to Glendale Boulevard. Yeah, pretty close to average freeway speeds, and he should be able to hit the accelerator a lot faster as we continue north here, because it will start to free up in terms of traffic here. But you can see that at this point he's still kind of zigzagging all over the freeway, just trying to dodge some slower moving cars. There's no carpool lane through here. It doesn't start until we get to the 134, but we are coming up to that soon. That will be the next freeway that we come up to here along the northbound 5. Yes, correct. He just passed the 2. He's in Los Feliz at Water Village area, and is continuing north on the 5. So his next option is that 134. If he wants to stay on the 5, he has to keep to the left. If he wants to get on the 134, he needs to be over in the right lane. And at this point, it kind of looks like he's kind of venturing over towards the right, but we'll see what he does here at the last second. Yeah, so it's still LAPD, but I did hear them ask for California Highway Patrol, so that it only makes sense. This pursuit has been on the freeway for quite some time now. The CHP is the police of our freeways here in California, so they're going to be best equipped to handle a chase on the freeway, so they will relinquish it over to the CHP when they arrive on scene. But for now, I actually think they're in surveillance mode yet again, because I'm not seeing any units directly behind them. So at this point, it is a helicopter only, and an attempt to try to get him to slow down, and if they realize that it's not working, then that's when those units can re-engage. Yeah, correct. Yeah, so strictly chopper right now, so they're not going to have their units with the code 3 lights on, which is, of course, the typical police lights. So they're basically just going to hang back. They usually hang about a quarter-mile back or so, just so that they're still close enough for when this pursuit comes to a stop for those officers to swoop in for the arrest. So they'll stay close enough, but far enough so that the driver doesn't see them. Yeah, we are very close. We're at Colorado, which is the last exit before you get to the 134. And right now he's set up to go on that northbound 5. So you see the lanes there on the right side of the screen. That's the 134. He missed his chance to get on that if he had any intent of getting onto the 134, and is instead going to continue northbound here on the 5, entering the Glendale Burbank area. Yeah, correct. So coming up to, we're right next to the LA Zoo. For those of you who are familiar with the Burbank area, you're going to know that giant IKEA. We're passing by that right now. And here's that carpool lane that I mentioned before. So this is where the carpool lane starts on the 5, and he jumped right on it as soon as he had the opportunity and is really picking up speed. Look at these speeds, Colleen. 100 miles an hour plus coming through Burbank here on the northbound 5. You know, it wouldn't be this wide open for you and me, but for some reason, when these guys decide they're going to run from the police, for some reason they get so lucky when it comes to traffic sometimes. And you can see there's the units, so that's the CHP. They've had enough of this guy zigzagging across the freeway here at high speeds like that, so they're going to get behind him again. Clearly surveillance mode was not working, so the CHP now in pursuit of this stolen car, a pursuit that started in West LA, made its way towards downtown, and is now in the city of Burbank. Fortunately, it does not. So we're able to pass through quite easily. We don't really need to climb to the altitudes that we normally do to get into the LAX airspace. And my pilot, Saro, is already on the line with the Burbank Tower to get us through. So it shouldn't be a problem for us to continue to follow this guy as he continues here northbound on the 5 freeway. And we shouldn't be in the way of any planes taking off or landing either. So we should be good to go here. Coming up to Burbank Boulevard. So that's going to pass, that's going to mean he's going to pass by areas like the Empire Town Center and as you said, the Burbank Airport as well, but it looks like he might be exiting. So we'll see what way he goes. Hopefully he doesn't go towards the airport. The airport would be a left-hand turn here. Hopefully he goes right, because that would that'll make it a little bit easier, at least in terms of the traffic. And it looks like that's exactly what he did. So he made that right-hand turn and is now on San Fernando Boulevard, which is the major street here through the area. Yeah, absolutely. And it looked like he just got nervous from these CHP cruisers behind him. Yeah, wrong side of the street there just for a second, because he had the red. Now he's going to turn, I believe this is Scott Road. Yes, this is Scott Road. He tricked me. Just got on there for a second and is now back on San Fernando Boulevard. So San Fernando Boulevard runs parallel to the 5 freeway for a good stretch. So if he stays on this, he's basically just paralleling the 5. And it's always a really busy street. There's so many different shops and businesses along San Fernando Boulevard. So he couldn't really have picked a busier street. So he's going to be encountering a lot like what you see right here. So lots of red lights, but it looks like he's kind of headed towards the mall right now. So making that turn to head towards the Burbank Mall here. And eventually the street that he's on, I believe, comes to an end. It kind of just dead ends at the mall. So, yep, there you go. So he's going to make that right-hand turn. I believe this is going to put him towards the Macy's. Slowing down a little bit, fortunately. Hopefully he's just looking for a spot to park and call this one over. Yeah, I mean, for the safety of the general public, I think that would be the best thing at this point. He's been driving so erratically, really high speeds on the freeway there for a time. So hopefully that's where we're heading. Hopefully he's just looking for a place to park the car and either surrender, and if he takes off running, which we've seen a lot lately, a lot of people are picking parking structures because they figure that that's a good place to hide from the airship, which makes sense, but you've got a unit right behind you, so you're not going to get very far if that's the thought process on this one. So continuing to work his way around the Burbank Mall here, headed back out towards San Fernando Boulevard. I'm actually not seeing any other unit other than this one. The CHP had just been given the permission to take over the chase, and this guy must have just been the closest one. But usually one unit in a pursuit is not good enough, so I can guarantee you that additional units are probably headed this way. But it looks like he is now back on the freeway. So he may have just been lost there around the Burbank Mall area and was just looking for a place to hop back on the freeway, because that's exactly what he did. We're back northbound on the 5 freeway. Usually not, especially because if perhaps that suspect vehicle ended up nose-to-nose with that squad car, it could really put that officer in a dangerous situation. So normally they would want more than one unit on scene to assist with the arrest, of course, as well. And in this case, we know there's more than one individual in the car, so they're going to need more than one officer to try to bring this one to an end. I think we were, Colleen. I think when he jumped on the freeway, he really picked up speed. He slowed down a little bit, but not by much. It's still in the high 90s. Unfortunately, yes. He's driving blacked out. He wasn't driving blacked out before, but when he jumped on the freeway just now, he turned his lights off, which makes it that much more dangerous, because if he comes up right up to another vehicle, those other cars aren't even going to see him, especially at these speeds. But fortunately, that CHP officer with his lights on, you're definitely going to see that. So this started, Colleen, over on the west side, so over LAPD's West LA division, but in the city of Santa Monica, which likely means they followed him from West LA into Santa Monica. That's when they tried to pull him over because the car came back as a stolen. The car looks like a Mercedes SUV type, and unfortunately the driver failed to yield, and the pursuit was on. Oh, that's a close one there. He was riding the right shoulder, and that car was hard on the brakes. It looks like this area is really busy, Colleen, lots of traffic. But he jumped on the 10 East. Yeah, he turned him on there just for momentarily, but now they're back off. Yeah, he jumped on the 10 East to the 110 and made his way to the northbound 5, where we find ourselves now. But again, he's completely blacked out, and he's driving so incredibly fast. I just pray that there isn't a slow-moving car in front of him that cuts him off, because then we will see a collision. Fortunately, at this point, we haven't seen any collisions as of yet, which is pretty hard to believe at these speeds. But for now, continuing high speeds here, northbound on the 5, approaching the split with the 170. Sometimes these things just don't make sense, and that is one of them. Unfortunately, with him driving with his lights off, it just makes it that much more dangerous. Passing by a sheriff's bus, ironically, I can guarantee you he's probably going to be on one of those later when this all comes to an end. But for now, yeah, him and his passenger here, at least one passenger that we know of, in this stolen Mercedes SUV. Coming up to the 170 split here. So we're entering areas like Pacoima, Arleta, and you cannot get onto the 170 from the 5 here. You're forced to continue northbound 5. You'd have to exit onto surface streets to take that 170 south. But for now, it looks like he's fully committed northbound on the 5 freeway as we come up to Sheldon. It's going to be Sheldon, Branford, Osborne, and eventually we'll just continue here northbound on the 5, eventually up to the Newhall Pass if he gets that far. Yeah, they'll often have CHP units hold back the on-ramps to the freeway when a pursuit is heading in a certain direction, just to try to keep cars away from where the pursuit is taking place. Once it passes, then they'll release the traffic. Sometimes they'll even run a traffic brake in front of the pursuit to try to slow the driver down. At this point, something like that, I don't know, would be very beneficial, because this guy is just kind of all over the roadway, using the right shoulder at times. Of course, when he's been on surface streets, he's been running red lights, cutting people off. I mean, it's been a dangerous one, all things considered. And again, fortunately, no collisions as of yet. Cross our fingers. But for now, here in the Sun Valley area, right at the 5 and the 170. Yeah, that's a good question, and it's also unclear when he stole this car. Is it a car that he took today, or was it one that he's held on to for a while and has been driving it as his own? So at this point, unclear what his fuel may be, and of course how and when he took this car, and even if the passenger knew anything about it. But as you said, Colleen, there goes that blinker again, trying to be courteous, I guess, but police, or the car vehicle lights still completely off, but fortunately that police car there with its lights just letting other drivers know that this is a pursuit. Yeah, it is a bigger Mercedes SUV. I'm sure that the size would be pretty comparable to that CHP Cruiser. I believe that's a Ford. I think the size isn't going to be as much of an issue as you said, the speed. He's just driving way too fast. Ideally, you're looking at 35 miles an hour. So as you said, the thought process behind that is you need enough speed so that there's enough momentum and the car will spin out. But you don't want too much speed where you could possibly injure the individual or anybody else, really. And the other factor they have to take into account is the traffic. Is this a nice wide open street with no other vehicles where nobody else is going to get hurt as a result? And right now it's just simply not. You're looking at the traffic along with us here. It's just too busy, but he may be exiting here into the Pacoima area, just off the northbound 5 freeway. I'll get you an exit as soon as I can here. But looks like Chatsworth Drive is going to be our exit here, just off the 5. So they did try tracking mode once or twice already. And the reason why they're not doing it now is it just didn't work. The times that they did try it, he kept driving just as erratically as ever. And he really didn't act any different. The thought about going into tracking mode is that he's going to slow down. He's going to think that he's no longer in a pursuit. He'll maybe go home. But this guy didn't do any of that. In fact, he sped up. And so once they realized it wasn't going to work, they figured it's best to just get a cruiser behind him. But look at that. The cruiser came up right next to him. But we're continuing here. Rinaldi at Laurel Canyon, surface streets now in the Sylmar area. Yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix of a residential and commercial area. Looks like it's a restaurant, perhaps. I think it's a Popeyes, a couple other stores here, and he's just kind of working his way around the lot. I don't know if he just simply got lost, but he did find an exit out, so he got lucky in that sense. Sometimes these drivers will do that, and they will drive themselves into a dead end. And these turns are a perfect time to try to do it too, Colleen, because most drivers will slow down when you're making a turn, so that would be an ideal time to do it. And his headlights are back on, so at least he's helping the community out here by lighting his vehicle up so that they know that he's coming their way. But just as soon as I say that, he turns them back off. So lights are on and off. No really rhyme or reason to that. But continuing here on surface streets in Sylmar. So really slowing down though, so that's good. So hopefully officers will find an opportunity here to do a pit, and all CHP units, all officers are pit approved, which means they've been trained to do it, so they can do it. So we'll see if this CHP officer attempts it, but again, we just need it to be a nice wide open street with not too many cars around, and right now it seems like it's just a little too busy. Correct, yeah, so there is that night sun on him now, and the car's going to come right under us here for just a second, so I'm widening out for a moment. Sometimes the camera will lose control sometimes when it goes right under us, so pardon me, but there we go. So we're back on the car here, but yeah, as you were saying, Colleen, the night sun is on him, so fortunately that is going to alert other drivers that this is a pursuit. Earlier when they were in surveillance mode, that CHP helicopter, rather the police helicopter, had turned its light off so that the suspect wouldn't see him, but now that they're back in full pursuit mode, that light is back on and the units are behind him. Yeah, so we were just in Sylmar, but we're coming up to, looks like Hubbard Street. So we're leaving Sylmar and entering the city of San Fernando. The city of San Fernando is a tiny little city, but it actually has its own police force. And they could get involved, but it would have to be a situation where the pursuit was just in their city for a long time. If he's just going to be passing through, likely what we're going to see is him just passing through here, then the CHP is going to stay behind him, and he's really picking up speed, so that is very concerning. He's about 80 miles an hour on a surface street, so these are freeway speeds, more than freeway speeds on surface streets. Oh, that was close with that box truck. Oh gosh. Oh, I'm holding my breath here every turn, man. And you see he has an audience there. This pursuit has been going on for so long now that people are starting to hear about it. Through yet another lot here. Yeah, so he just turned back into a parking lot. It was a Bank of America, but now he's back on surface streets. He's on Glen Oaks and continuing here on surface streets. So I don't know if he's familiar with this area or he's simply lost trying to find his way back to the 5 freeway, but that is going to be the nearest freeway for him. The 210 is also not too far, and neither is the 118, but at this point it looks like if he was going to jump on anything, it'd be the 5. Can I move over to O? Can you climb a little, Sarah? Thank you. O is down. Yeah, and fortunately he is slowing down a lot, Colleen, so hopefully he's just looking for an opportunity to ditch the car, just from doing, these pursuits. So what we've learned is usually drivers tend to return to an area that is familiar to them, and for most of us that's our home or it's a friend's house. So it could be a situation where he is just kind of slowing down just enough to ditch the car and then take off running into said house. So we see that time and time again, and considering how much he's slowed down, I would venture to say that's probably what he's doing. And if that's not what he's doing, then he's probably just lost because the speeds have really died down, which is a good thing. Top speeds, I think we saw like 113 miles an hour on the northbound 5 freeway. But fortunately, even though he's blacked out still, the night sun is overhead, so other vehicles and pedestrian traffic are going to be able to see that. They're going to know that this is a chase and hopefully just stay out of the way, which again is the best thing you can do in these situations. They are calling. Unfortunately, that's something we've seen, in the last few years with the rise of social media. People just need to document it for themselves. So a lot of people just coming out and trying to capture footage of the pursuit going by, which is never what you want to do, of course, because you don't know if this person is armed. You don't know if you're going to end up in a crossfire situation, if he's going to be involved in some sort of crash, let's say. So the best thing you can do is, if you're in this area, again, this is going to be the Sylmar area. It's a residential area. If you are in this area, the best thing you can do is just stay inside, watch it here with us, and of course, if you're on the road when something like this passes you by, the best thing you can do is just move over to the right, let the pursuit go by, and then rejoin when it's safe to do so. I believe he has, yeah, Aztec Street. He keeps coming up to that, which, well, again, what we see is usually when drivers are looking for a place to ditch the car, they keep going on the same streets. It's a typical pattern here. So he's back on Bradley, which is actually the bigger street here through the area. And I'm guessing he's going to turn again to the right if he's going to get back onto that street he was just on. But fortunately, speeds are a little bit slower, still not ideal for a residential area. But again, this is the CHP that is in pursuit. Pursuit, though, that started with the LAPD's West LA Division, all the way over in Santa Monica, made its way into downtown, made its way into Burbank, and we're now on the north end of the San Fernando Valley. Yeah, let me see if I can widen out and not lose him. Yeah, no, I'm not seeing a unit right on him. So I think they're thinking what we're thinking, that they're probably just looking for a place to ditch the car. So if you back those units off, then the driver will likely think he's no longer being pursued. He won't necessarily see that night sun. He might not be able to correlate that. So that might be an opportunity for him to think, I'm scot-free, I'll ditch the car somewhere and take off running. But little does he know, officers are close by. Yeah, he did that rolling stop. I don't think he stopped long enough, though, to drop off his passenger. I didn't see a door open, but it does look like that's kind of what the attempt was. And it looks like he had stopped at an encampment there. And he's right next to the train tracks here. So the street over there on the other side is going to be San Fernando Road, because the train tracks do run parallel to San Fernando Road. So he's going through the bus depot right now. Again, this is going to be, we're right on the border of Sylmar and San Fernando. And he may be coming to a stop. Yep, coming to a stop. The passenger is out. The driver is out. So passengers over there. I'm going to try to keep an eye here on the driver, and the police helicopter will do that as well. Typically that's who you want to follow, since he was the one driving that stolen car. So he's making his way onto San Fernando Road. He's just on the other side. Let me get out of my doublers here to make it a little bit easier to follow. So there he goes, crossing the street. Again, this is going to be right at, I believe it's Truman and Hubbard, actually. So Truman and Hubbard, just on the other side of that tree next to that fence. They're giving the description of what he's wearing right now over the scanner, and he's running towards a dispensary next to those trash bins there now, just on the other side of the building. Coming back, perhaps he realizes they'll see me if I go that way. If he tries to run into the dispensary, that's not going to get him very far. It's a small business, but apparently he doesn't listen to me. So he's in the dispensary now. Again, it's a small business, so he's going to be easily found if he decides to hide in there. But just kind of still trying to figure out what he's going to do. Again, we're right off of Truman and San Fernando Road. Starting to take off his clothing. I can only guess that what he's trying to do is to change what he's wearing so that he won't match what he was wearing when he got out of the vehicle, and will try to blend in somewhere. But he's not going to get out of the sight of the police helicopter, that's for sure. And they just moved in for the tackle. These are CHP officers that are moving in for the arrest. He's fighting them, though. He's got 5 CHP officers on him, and he's still resisting. Again, this was a man who was wanted for vehicle theft, out of the West LA area, and it looks like he's going to be in custody, no doubt about it. I'm waiting to hear if his friend, the passenger, is in custody as well. He dropped him off there at the bus depot, so when we can, we're going to focus our attention over there to see if we can see that arrest, but at least for now, the driver in this pursuit is now in custody.